All right, so today we're going deep
Deep.
into Sumerian mythology.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard much about Sumerian mythology?
Well, I have, but
Oh.
most people probably haven't.
Yeah, it's not exactly something that comes up in casual conversation very often.
Right.
But it's fascinating because
Yeah.
we're talking about stories that are etched on clay tablets that are like from 1750 BC.
Wow.
This is the oldest written literature that's ever been found.
It's true. And what's even more fascinating is that we're not just talking about, old stories that are just kind of there.
Right.
These stories had a ripple effect across the Near East, and they influenced cultures like the Babylonians and the Assyrians.
Oh, wow.
And some scholars even suggest that their myths might even have echoes in stories that we know today.
Oh, wow. So we might be talking about some of the roots of
Oh,
the
exactly.
most enduring narratives of humanity.
Yeah.
So to guide us through this ancient world, we are relying on a book called Sumerian Mythology by Samuel Noah Kramer.
That's right.
And this guy was like the expert.
He was a leading expert.
Yeah.
And he spent years piecing together these fragmented clay tablets.
Yeah, I can imagine it was like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
It was exactly like that.
Yeah.
But instead of cardboard pieces, we're talking about, these delicate clay tablets.
Right.
And a lot of them were uncopied and unpublished at the time.
Oh, wow.
And then on top of that, translating Sumerian is not easy.
Right, because it's a whole different language family.
A completely different language family.
Yeah.
It's like trying to decipher an alien language.
Yeah. So how did this guy even begin to crack the code?
Well, he got help from later Mesopotamian scribes.
Okay.
And believe it or not, these scribes were fascinated by Sumerian culture, too.
Okay.
And they created bilingual dictionaries and interlinear translations, which are basically cheat sheets for understanding this ancient tongue.
So they were like the original deep divers.
Exactly.
So this guy Kramer spent years, assembling and translating these texts. What did he find? What are like the big foundational stories of Sumerian culture?
Well, like a lot of cultures, they had creation myths that explained, the origin of the universe. And one of the most important sources we have for this comes from the introduction to the poem Gilgamesh, Enkidu, and the Netherworld.
Gilgamesh. Now that's a name I've heard before.
Yes, Gilgamesh is a legendary hero, and we'll talk about him later.
Okay.
But for now, let's focus on the creation myth that sets the stage for this epic tale.
Okay, so I'm ready. I want to hear how the world began according to the Sumerians.
Okay, so imagine this. At the very beginning, there was Namu, the primeval sea.
Okay.
This vast watery expanse, and everything emerged from this.
So everything came from water.
Everything came from water. And from Namu came this cosmic mountain, which represents the union of heaven and earth.
Oh, so heaven and earth were originally one?
Exactly. They were like two halves of this mountain.
Wow.
And they were personified as gods, and they had human form.
Okay.
And they were a heaven god and here the earth goddess.
Ah, the separation of heaven and earth. That's a classic creation myth motif.
Right, but here's where the Sumerian myth takes a turn.
Okay.
The air god, Enlil, he's born from the union of An and Ki.
Okay.
So he's their son, and it's Enlil, not Enlia, that separates heaven and earth.
Wait, so the son separates his parents?
Mm-hmm.
That's different.
It's a fascinating twist.
Yeah.
And after the separation, Elin takes the heavens.
Okay.
Enlil takes the earth. And that sets the stage for the rest of the universe.
Okay, so Enlil is a pretty pivotal character here. So what was his personality like? Was he a benevolent creator or
Well,
a little more complicated?
He was definitely complex.
Okay.
He was powerful,
All right.
associated with order, justice, and natural forces.
Mm-hmm.
But he could also be stern
Uh-oh.
and even wrathful.
Okay.
And the story of Enlil and Ninlil gives us some insight into his character.
Enlil and Ninlil. And who is Ninlil?
Ninlil is a younger goddess.
Okay.
And she's going to give birth to the moon god, Nana.
Okay.
And also 3 underworld deities.
Underworld deities. This is getting interesting.
Yeah, so Enlil and Ninlil, they have this encounter in Nippur, which is one of the most important Sumerian cities.
Okay.
And Ninlil becomes pregnant with the moon god.
All right.
Then Enlil decides to journey to the netherworld.
Okay.
And Ninlil, driven by love or something, follows him.
Even in Sumerian mythology, love makes you do crazy things.
Apparently.
All right.
And as Enlil makes his way to the underworld, he encounters Ninlil 3 times disguised as different people.
Oh, this is getting good.
Let's just say he persuades her to.
Yeah.
Well, you get the picture.
Yeah.
And this results in the birth of 3 underworld deities.
Wow. Enlil's a busy guy.
He is.
So he's powerful, he's a bit of a trickster, and maybe not the most faithful husband?
That's one way to put it.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this story is that we see metamorphosis, a god changing forms.
Yeah.
That's a motif that pops up in later mythology as well.
It does.
So we have Enlil, this powerful, kind of complex god who shapes the universe. But what about the underworld itself? Is this like a fiery hell that we often imagine?
Not quite.
Okay.
The Sumerian underworld is called Kur,
Kur.
and it's a dark subterranean realm
Right.
ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal.
Ereshkigal.
It's not a place of eternal torment.
Okay.
It's more like a shadowy realm where the dead reside as shades.
Okay. So not exactly a party down there, but also not a fiery inferno.
Right.
Are there any other important deities we should know about with their own stories and domains?
Oh, absolutely. There's Enki,
Enki.
the god of wisdom and water.
Okay.
He's very different from Enlil.
Enki the wise one. So I'm guessing he was a little more level-headed.
You could say that.
All right.
He's known for his cleverness,
Okay.
creativity, and his role as protector of humanity.
Oh.
He was also associated with freshwater magic
Wow.
and the very arts of civilization.
So if Enlil brought order to the universe, Enki brought civilization.
You could say that
They were like the dynamic duo of Sumerian mythology.
they were two of the most prominent deities,
Oh.
and their stories intertwine quite often. And one myth that shows Enki's character and his impact is the story of Enki and Ninhursag.
Enki and Ninhursag.
And this tale takes place in Dilmun,
Damn.
which is a paradise,
Girl.
free from sickness, death, and predators.
So like a Sumerian Garden of Eden.
It had that same sense of pristine beauty
Right.
and abundance.
Okay.
But of course, things can't stay perfect forever.
Right.
Enki, despite his wisdom, makes some unwise choices.
Oh, even the wisest can falter. So what did he do?
He got a little too curious about the plants in Dilmun,
Okay.
and he disrupts the balance of this paradise.
Oh, no.
This angers Ninhursag,
Ninhursag.
a powerful mother goddess,
Right.
and she curses him with various ailments.
So even the god of wisdom isn't immune to making mistakes.
He is not.
What happens to poor Enki? Does he suffer?
He does. He suffers 8 different pains, one for each plant he meddled with.
Oh my god.
But luckily for him,
Okay.
Ninhursag eventually relents,
Okay.
and she decides to heal him.
Oh, good. I was worried he was going to be stuck with a bad case of, eternal indigestion or something.
Right. Well, Ninhursag has a more creative solution.
Okay.
To heal him, she gives birth to 8 deities,
Okay.
and each one is specifically designed to cure one of his ailments.
Talk about a divine remedy.
Right.
So Enki messes up, gets cursed, and then is healed by 8 new deities.
Yes.
What's the takeaway from this story?
Well, it's a story about consequences,
Right.
healing,
Right.
and the cyclical nature of creation and destruction.
Right.
It also emphasizes Enki's role as a bringer of civilization.
Okay.
And in another myth, Enki and Sumer,
Okay.
he's actually credited with organizing the earth,
Wow.
establishing laws, and introducing crafts and skills to humanity.
So even though he makes mistakes, he learns and uses his wisdom for the benefit of humanity.
Yes.
That's a surprisingly relatable message after all these centuries. But we've been talking a lot about Enki and Enlil. What about the other gods in the Sumerian pantheon? Were there any other ones with really fascinating stories and domains?
Absolutely. And one that you definitely need to know about is Inanna,
Inanna.
the queen of heaven.
Okay, I have a feeling her story's going to be exciting.
You won't be disappointed.
Right.
Inanna was associated with love,
Okay.
war, and civilization.
Wow, she's got a lot going on.
She did.
So what was her most epic adventure?
One of her most famous myths is Inanna and Enki, the transfer of the arts of civilization.
Inanna and Enki. The transfer of the arts of civilization.
Okay? This showcases her ambition and her cleverness
Okay.
as she goes head-to-head with Enki himself.
Oh, a divine showdown. This is amazing. Tell me everything.
So Inanna sets her sights on obtaining the divine decrees, over 100 of them.
The divine decrees, what were those exactly?
Imagine these as cosmic blueprints,
Okay.
representing all the knowledge and skills that back up Sumerian civilization, so things like writing, agriculture, crafts, even social customs. These were the keys to a thriving society,
Right.
and they were kept in Enki's domain in the city of Eridu.
Okay.
Inanna wanted to bring these gifts to her city, Uruk.
So she's on a mission to steal the secrets of civilization from the god of wisdom himself.
It was a bold move.
That is bold.
So she travels to Eridu,
Okay.
and let's just say she uses her charm to get Enki a little tipsy during a banquet.
I see where this is going. Classic move. So she gets him drunk, and then what?
Well, while he's distracted,
Right.
She seizes the divine decrees,
Oh, wow.
loads them onto her boat of heaven,
Boat of heaven.
and makes a daring escape back to Uruk.
Oh, wait, did Enki just let her get away with it?
Not quite.
Okay.
When Enki sobers up and realizes what happened, he's furious.
Yeah, I bet.
So he sends his messenger, Isimud, along with a group of sea monsters,
Sea monsters! This is awesome!
to chase after her and get the decrees back.
Wow! A divine boat chase? That's intense.
It was, and Inanna, with the help of her faithful servant Ninshubur, manages to outwit Enki's forces at each of the 7 stops between Eridu and Uruk.
Okay.
And she finally arrives triumphantly in Uruk, bringing the arts of civilization with her.
What a story.
It was.
So we have this creation myth, we have a love story with a twist, we have this wise god who makes mistakes, and this powerful goddess who steals the secrets of civilization.
It's a lot.
It is a lot, and it's just from these few stories. What else can we learn from these ancient tales?
Well, there's so much more. We have myths about the creation of humankind.
Oh, wow.
Tales of heroes battling monstrous creatures.
Awesome.
And even a Sumerian version of the flood myth.
No way. I'm already hooked, but I think we should take a pause here and come back to those stories in part 2 because I need some time to process all these amazing characters and their incredible adventures.
Sounds good.
Until next time, everybody, happy pondering.
Happy pondering.
Okay, so we left off talking about all these incredible Sumerian myths and how much more there is to uncover.
Right.
You mentioned that there's even a Sumerian story about the creation of humans. So did they also believe that, we were fashioned from clay like some other cultures do?
They did.
Really?
But the Sumerian version has a unique twist to it.
Okay.
In the poem, it's titled The Creation of Man by Kramer.
Okay.
And it starts with the gods complaining about their workload.
Sounds familiar.
Right.
Who hasn't felt overwhelmed by their to-do list?
Exactly. They were tired of all the tasks involved in maintaining the world.
Makes sense.
They needed a break.
Yeah.
And Enki, always the clever one, suggests creating servants to lighten the load.
Okay, that makes sense. So who's going to do the creating and, how are these servants made?
So Enki turns to his mother, Namu, Namu, the primeval sea,
You're right,
for help. And he asks her to combine clay from the abyss, from those primordial waters,
right,
with the essence of the gods.
Oh, wow. So it's like clay plus a little extra something special.
Exactly. And then divine craftspeople
Okay.
would mold this special clay into human forms.
Wow. Okay. So we've got the raw materials clay from the abyss, a touch of the divine. What happens next? How did these first humans come to life?
Well, that part of the poem is a little bit fragmented.
Okay.
But it seems that a group of goddesses led by the Earth Mother Goddess Ninmah played a crucial role in animating these clay figures.
So it was a real team effort.
It was a team effort.
We've got the primordial sea, Enki's clever idea, divine craftspeople, and Ninmah's life-giving touch. What were these first humans like? Were they perfect beings?
Not exactly.
Okay.
The poem describes this really interesting scene where Enki and Ninmah, after perhaps celebrating their creation a little too enthusiastically, decide to have a little fun.
Okay, I have a feeling this is where things take an unexpected turn. So what happened?
So Ninmah challenges Enki's creative skills.
Okay.
And she takes some of that divine clay.
Okay.
And she fashions 6 different types of humans, each with a specific flaw or imperfection.
Okay.
For example, she creates a woman who can't bear children and a man who is unable to have sexual relations.
Wow, so from the very beginning, humans were conceived as beings with limitations.
Yes.
That's pretty different from the idea of, perfect, pristine beings that you find in some other creation myths.
Right, and what's even more thought-provoking is that Enki, despite this challenge, accepts these imperfect beings.
Okay.
He sees value in their differences, and he assigns a place and a purpose for each of them in society.
That's a really, modern and inclusive message.
It is.
For such an ancient story.
Yes. It speaks volumes about how the Sumerians understood the human condition.
Right.
That we're inherently flawed.
Yeah.
But we each have a place in the world.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about the creation of the universe, the creation of humankind. You also mentioned a Sumerian flood myth.
Yes.
Was it anything like the biblical account of Noah's Ark?
There are definitely similarities.
Okay.
It tells the story of a massive deluge that nearly wipes out all of humanity.
Wow.
The hero in this story is Ziusudra, a king known for his piety and his close relationship with the gods.
So kind of like Noah, A righteous man chosen to survive.
Exactly. How does this Sumerian version unfold?
Well, how does it?
So the exact reason for the flood is unclear,
Okay.
because the text is a little bit fragmented there.
Yeah.
But it seems that the gods, for reasons unknown, decided to send this devastating flood to destroy humanity.
That's intense. But I'm guessing that Zusudra gets a divine warning like Noah did.
He does. Ziusudra is warned by a god, most likely Enki.
Enki.
And Enki gives him instructions on how to build a massive boat.
Knew it a giant boat, just like Noah's Ark. So did he round up his family, maybe some animals, and set sail?
Well, we don't know exactly who or what was on board because that part of the text is missing.
Okay.
But we do know that the flood came and it was catastrophic. The poem describes fierce winds, raging waters, engulfing the entire earth for 7 days and 7 nights.
That is a long time to be at sea.
It is?
So what happened when the waters finally receded? Did Ziusudra find dry land?
He did when the sun god Utu reappeared.
Utu, okay.
Ziusudra opened a window of the boat and prostrated himself before the god, offering sacrifices of an ox and a sheep.
Wow, a powerful moment of gratitude. I can only imagine what that must have felt like.
It is.
What happened to Ziusudra after that? Was he tasked with, repopulating the world like a second Adam?
Well, the surviving fragments don't actually reveal his fate,
Okay.
but they suggest that he was granted immortality and whisked away to a distant paradise-like land.
So he was rewarded for his piety and obedience.
Exactly.
That kind of mirrors the biblical story where Noah also receives blessings.
It does, and it really underscores that these ancient myths often serve not just as explanations for natural phenomena, but also as moral tales, highlighting the importance of respecting the gods and living a righteous life.
Right. So we've covered creation myths, a flood myth, tales of gods and goddesses with, these distinct personalities and roles. Is there anything else that we should know about Sumerian mythology before we move on?
There's always more to uncover.
I bet it.
But before we delve into other deities, I want to revisit the concept of Kur.
Okay, Kur, the Sumerian underworld. We talked about that briefly before.
Yes.
When Enlil journeyed down there. And you mentioned that it wasn't, the fiery hell that we often picture.
The Sumerian underworld was a multifaceted concept.
Okay.
It was both a physical place,
right,
a subterranean realm beneath the earth,
okay,
and it was also a symbolic representation of chaos, darkness, and the unknown.
So it had like literal and symbolic dimensions.
It did.
What else can you tell us about Kur? Like, what was it like down there?
It was a realm of shadows and silence, ruled by the goddess Ereshkigal.
Ereshkigal, right.
And the dead resided there as shades, and they led a rather bleak existence.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a place you'd want a vacation.
Not really.
So did anyone ever journey to Kur and return? Besides Inanna, of course, who had her own whole underworld adventure.
Well, there's one myth that tells of a hero venturing into Kur and battling this terrifying creature.
Okay.
It highlights the perils of the underworld and the courage it takes to confront those forces of chaos.
This is a story I want to hear. Who was this brave hero and what kind of monster did he face?
The hero is Ninurta.
Ninurta.
A god associated with war, agriculture, and healing.
Okay.
He was known for his strength, his warrior skills, and his role as protector of order and civilization.
He sounds like the perfect candidate for an underworld quest.
He was.
Right.
And the myth describes his journey into Kur to confront this monstrous being, simply called Kur.
Just Kur.
This creature embodies chaos and destruction, threatening the world's balance.
So it's like the classic battle of good versus evil order against chaos.
Exactly. And how did the fight go?
Yeah, tell me.
It was an epic showdown. The poem describes a fierce battle filled with thunder, lightning, earthquakes.
Wow.
Ninurta, wielding his powerful weapons, ultimately triumphs over Kur, restoring order and safeguarding the world.
Wow, what a victory. He's like the Sumerian Hercules slaying monsters and saving the day.
He's an apt comparison. Ninurta embodies the Sumerian ideal of heroism.
This is incredible. We've explored creation myths, a flood myth, stories of gods and goddesses with these really distinct personalities and roles. We even delved into the shadowy realm of Kur.
We've covered a lot.
What other fascinating tales await us in the Sumerian pantheon?
Let's explore those in the final part. There's still plenty of captivating stories to uncover.
I am on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to hear more about these ancient myths and the insights that they offer into, the human experience.
Until next time, keep pondering.
Okay, so are we ready to jump back into this world of Sumerian mythology?
I'm ready.
All right, because we've encountered some truly remarkable deities so far.
Right.
Enlil,
yes.
Enki, Nana.
Absolutely.
Are there any other figures out there with stories that that might just surprise us?
Oh, there are plenty more. And one that you should definitely meet is Dumuzi the shepherd god.
Dumuzi the shepherd god.
Yes.
Okay, I'm picturing someone like peaceful,
Yeah.
tending his flock, in these idyllic pastures.
Well, Dumuzi is associated with flocks and pastoral life.
Right.
But his story takes some pretty unexpected turns.
I'm intrigued. So what kind of twists are we talking about here?
Well, for one, Dumuzi becomes the consort of Inanna,
Oh, wow. Okay.
the powerful queen of heaven.
So they're like a divine power couple.
Yes, you could say that.
I can already sense the drama.
There's definitely drama.
Right.
And one of the most famous myths about Dumuzi actually ties back to Inanna's descent to the netherworld.
Okay. Inanna's descent.
Do you remember how she ventures into the underworld
Yes.
and is ultimately trapped there?
Yes, it was a terrifying ordeal. She was stripped of her power, killed, and even hung on a hook.
Yeah, it was a harrowing experience.
Yeah.
But here's the twist. When Inanna finally escapes the underworld,
Okay.
she's allowed to leave only if she provides a substitute.
Okay.
And guess who she chooses?
Oh, no, don't tell me.
She chooses Dumuzi, her own husband, to take her place.
She did not just throw her husband under the bus.
She did.
Oh, my gosh.
But there's more to it.
Okay.
It turns out Dumuzi wasn't exactly consumed by grief while Inanna was trapped down there.
Oh.
In fact, he was found celebrating a little too enthusiastically.
So he's throwing a party while his wife is facing death?
You could say that.
Yeah. I can see why Inanna might hold a grudge.
Exactly. Feeling betrayed. Inanna allows demons to drag Dumuzi down to the underworld to take her place.
What a turn of events. So Dumuzi goes from, the consort of the Queen of Heaven to a prisoner in the underworld.
Yeah.
So what happens to him down there?
Well, his fate isn't totally clear. Some versions of the myth suggest that he spends part of the year in the underworld,
Okay.
while his sister Geshtinana takes his place for the other half.
Oh, so it's like a cyclical thing.
It is a cyclical thing.
Right.
It's a story about cycles, life and death, light and darkness.
Right.
Dumuzi's descent symbolizes the dying of vegetation in winter,
Oh, okay.
and his return represents that renewal of life in spring.
Oh, wow. So it's connected to the seasons?
Exactly. It reflects the natural rhythms of the world
What?
and that eternal cycle of birth, death, and rebirth.
It's amazing how these myths so often connect to observations about nature and the changing seasons and things like that.
They do, and that link to nature is even more emphasized in another myth that features Dumuzi, the story of the shepherd and the farmer.
The shepherd and the farmer. Okay, I'm picturing like a friendly rivalry.
Yeah.
Maybe a Sumerian version of a county fair.
Well, it's not quite a county fair,
Okay.
but it is a debate poem.
Okay, debate poem.
And in this myth, Dumuzi, the shepherd god, engages in this war of words
Okay.
with Enkidu, a farmer god.
A battle of wits, a clash of lifestyles. What are they arguing about?
Each of them boasts about the importance of their role in society, listing all their contributions and their skills.
Right.
So Dumuzi highlights, the abundance of milk and wool and meat that he provides from his flocks.
Those are pretty essential resources.
Right, and what about Enkidu?
Yeah, what does he say?
Well, he emphasizes the vital role of grain and bread and the cultivation of crops. He argues that his work is the bedrock of civilization, providing sustenance and stability.
Right. It's like, who's more important, the one who provides the food directly or the one who provides the other essential resources that are needed?
Exactly. And who wins?
Yeah, who wins?
Well, the poem's ending is a little ambiguous,
Oh.
but Dumuzi seems to get the last word.
Okay.
He offers to shower Enkidu with gifts of milk, cheese, and all these other delicacies,
Okay.
suggesting that the shepherd's bounty is ultimately more valuable.
It's a celebration of abundance,
It is.
both from nature and human ingenuity.
Exactly. And it highlights that Sumerian appreciation for the interconnectedness of humans and the natural world.
Wow, we've covered so much ground.
We have.
Creation myths,
Yes.
the flood, gods
Yeah.
and goddesses with these distinct personalities,
Yeah.
even a journey to the underworld, and you've brought these ancient tales to life so vividly for us. But as we wrap up, I have one question.
Okay.
Why should we care about these stories today? What makes them relevant to us now?
That's a great question. And I think these myths offer us a window into the human mind
Okay.
across millennia.
Right.
They show us how people in the past wrestled with these big questions about life and death and the nature of reality questions we're still grappling with today.
Yeah. They remind us that some things are truly timeless, even across thousands of years.
Exactly. And remember, these myths didn't stay confined to ancient Sumer.
Right.
Many of their themes and motifs appear in later cultures and traditions, including our own.
It's incredible to think how these stories traveled through time,
Right.
shaping the imaginations of people throughout history.
It speaks to the enduring power of storytelling.
Right. And beyond their historical significance, I think these myths are just captivating,
Yeah.
filled with drama, these larger-than-life characters and these universal struggles
Absolutely.
between good and evil,
Yes.
order and chaos.
It's all there.
I have to say, Sumerian mythology has been a revelation for me.
It is fascinating.
It's far more complex and intriguing than I ever imagined.
It's a rich tapestry of stories that continues to intrigue and inspire.
Well, dear listeners, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Sumerian mythology. But the exploration doesn't have to end here. I encourage you to delve deeper into these ancient tales, seek out other Sumerian stories, see what resonates with you.
Who knows, you might even find traces of these ancient myths hidden in plain sight, woven into the fabric of our own modern world.
Until next time, happy pondering.
Happy pondering.